I'm sorry, I was muted. We'll do it again then, the prayer. Prarthana. Now you're able to hear me, I hope?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So let us do the Prarthana. By the Guru's grace and by the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this online satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. So let us go to the prayer. Let us chant the shloka, which is from Shri Stuti of Swami Vedanta Deshikan. So in the first verse of this stotra, Swami says, Manadita pratita vibhavam mangalam mangalanam vakshah pithim madhuvijaino bhushayantim swakantya pratyakshanushravika mahima prarthaninam prajanam Shreyo Murtim Shriyama Sharanatvam Sharanyam Prapadye Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yukma Rugma Vyamo Hatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmad Gurur Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindhoho Ramanujasya Charanam Sharanam Prapadye. So the prayers to the Acharya. Let us begin with our satsang for today. So in this shloka, which is from the Shri Stuti, Swami Deshikan is expressing that how I have no other recourse, I have no other refuge, and he's praying to Devi, to Mata Sri Ranganayaki Tayar at Sri Rangam, and he's saying that I have no other recourse. You are the only one. So you who have such a glorious nature, you who are seated on the Vakshasthala, on the heart of Sri Vishnu. You are the one who has to take care of me. You are the one who has to protect me in all situations. So with this prayer to Devi, because it is Navaratri, we will now move to our discussion. So our topic for this Navaratri is going to be Navavidha Bhakti. So when we say Navavidha Bhakti, where does this occur? From the name, we can make out Vidha means modes or ways, right? And Nava refers to the number 9. So Navavidha Bhakti means 9 modes through which we can perform bhakti, through which we can offer devotion to the Lord. So we know the famous pastime of the Lord as Narasimha, where he came to protect Prahlada. So before the Lord appeared, when Hiranyakashipu was having that angry discussion with Prahlada and, saying, what is this nonsense you are doing? Who taught you all this? Why are you always chanting the name of Hari when he is my prime enemy and all that? At that time, Prahlada is explaining to his father, just as he has explained to all his classmates in that Gurukula, he has taught them that what is it that we should be doing? How should we worship the Lord? So in that place, in that shloka of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlada explains, and the shloka says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam, Iti Pumsar Pita Vishnu, Bhaktischa Navalakshana, Create Bhagavat Yatta Tanmaye, Dhitam Uttamam. So what he is telling in this is that all these things, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam. Hearing, Shravanam refers to hearing. Kirtanam is chanting. What? About the holy name, about the form, about the qualities, and the pastimes of whom? Of Lord Vishnu. Smaranam, remembering them. Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Archanam, offering respectful worship to the lotus feet of the Lord. Vandanam. Vandanam means to fall down and prostrate and offer prayers to the Lord. Dasyam, becoming his servant. Sakhyam, considering the Lord as one's best friend. And Atmanivedanam, that is surrendering everything unto him. These 9 processes, these Navavidha, are accepted as bhakti. So someone who has devoted and dedicated their life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods, such a person is the most learned person. Why? Because he has got complete knowledge of what it is that he needs to know to be liberated from this unending ocean, this samsara of birth and death. So here in this, the 9 forms of worship that we have talked about are Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, and Atmanivedanam. So each of these, in these 9 days of Navaratri, we will see more in detail about each of these. So today being the first day, we will take up Shravanam, that is hearing about the Lord, hearing about the glories of the Lord, hearing chanting of the Lord's name, hearing somebody do pathan or reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing someone reciting stotras, all this. So this hearing is the first step. Of course, in all our satsangs, we've been talking about how we must do kirtanam, isn't it? Kirtanam means we want to talk about, kirtanam means we have to chant the Lord's name, we have to keep saying his name, we have to keep singing bhajans that way. But before you can go to the stage where you chant, you need to listen and understand about the Lord's glories. So that is the reason why hearing is first, right? And as we always say, no, many times in a lighter vein, people say that you have 2 ears so that you can hear a lot. And we must not ideally be talking very much ourselves. We must be hearing more. Of course, when it comes to the Lord's kirtanam, we must do a lot of kirtanam. With the one mouth that we have, we must do a lot of kirtanam. But for worldly things, that one mouth, we should keep it closed. That is always the better way out. So today we will talk about Shravanam, which is hearing about the Lord's glories. So the personality in the Itihasas and Puranas who gave us the ideal of listening is Parikshit Maharaj. So we know the story of Parikshit Maharaj also. So I don't need to go into details, but just to tell the summary, we know how Parikshit Maharaj, he was the son of Abhimanyu, and he was therefore the grandson of the Pandavas, of Arjuna. And this Parikshit Maharaj had a lot of glory. After all, he came in that glorious lineage. But one day when he went hunting into the forest and he was very tired and hungry, he reached a Rishi's ashram. And when he reached the ashram of the Rishi was in dhyana. Now, this Parikshit was totally, in his hunger and thirst, he didn't realize what he's doing. He called out that, please somebody give me water to drink, give me something to eat. But there was nobody there. And the Rishi was just sitting quietly in his dhyana. So somehow Parikshit got infuriated. He flew into a rage. And without realizing what he is doing, there was a dead snake lying there. He picked up the dead snake and put it around the Rishi's neck, and he walked away from there. Now the Rishi was unaffected by all this. He was continuing to be in dhyana even after that snake was put on him, isn't it? Rishis, all realized souls, have this attitude that this body itself is a dead thing. So how will he even realize that a dead snake has been put on him, right? So he didn't do anything. But the Rishi's son came there. And that son got so angry with this act of Parikshit Maharaj that he cursed Parikshit and said that just as you have put a snake around my father, the snake Takshaka will bite you and you will die in 7 days from now. So Parikshit got to hear about this, and now he realized, okay, now there is nothing more left for me. I have 1 week's time only. So he made up his mind that he wants to spend that 7 days in doing whatever is it that will help him to go smoothly from this world. He goes to the banks of the Ganga and he's sitting there and he's, thinking what to do. He's trying to meditate and all that. At that time, as if by God's grace only, Shuka Muni comes there. Shuka is the son of Vedavyasa, and he is one of the great Avadutas. He's one of the great realized souls. So Shuka comes there, and Parikshit asks Shuka Muni that, please tell me, what is it that I should know? What is it that is important for me to learn? What is it that I have not learned in all these years of my life and which will help me carry forward to life beyond this birth? What is it that I need to know? Please advise me, please guide me, he says. And in response to that, Shukamuni narrates the entire set of the Shastras, which we call as the Srimad Bhagavatam. So throughout those 7 days, very faithfully, Parikshit listened to the stories, to the events, to all the things, the narrations of Shukamuni. So this act of Parikshit, of listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam, is the act of Shravanam. And he was not listening, just like, with half his mind. At one point of time, when Shukamuni stops and says that, okay, now so much time has passed, do you want to take rest? Maybe you must be hungry, you want to eat, you can take a break, like that. Parikshit says, whatever you are saying, that is nectar for me. Whatever you are saying, that is only the food for me. I don't need any more rest. I don't need to eat anything else. You please continue, he says. And with that rapt attention, he listens. When Shukamuni starts telling about, the birth of Krishna, and he describes how so many asuras came there to try and kill Krishna, Parikshit gets so scared and, restless. He says, oh, what is going to happen now to Krishna? Doesn't Parikshit know what has happened? After all, he was born by the miraculous deeds of Krishna himself, isn't it? So he knows very well that Krishna didn't get affected by the asuras. But such was his bhava that he got so completely involved and so much full of devotion he heard that he was worried about what is going to happen to baby Krishna. So that is what exemplifies for us this whole thing about Shravanam. So that example of Parikshit Maharaj tells us how we should listen to stories of the Lord. Then, why should we practice Shravanam? Because we know also the example of Rukmini. We know how Rukmini's Swayamvar was arranged, and she was going to be, given away to Shishupala. And in her heart, she had decided that Krishna is going to be her husband. So she writes a letter to Krishna, probably the first love letter in the history of mankind, saying that I have heard about you and your quality, and I want you to come and take me as your wife. So in her letter, specifically, if you see the first verse of that letter, she is describing the Lord by saying, "Oh, beauty of the worlds." So she's describing the beautiful form of the Lord. But more important to us is what she says, having heard of your qualities, which enter the ears of those who hear and remove their bodily distress. And having also heard of your beauty, which fulfills the visual desires of those who see, I have fixed my mind upon you, O Krishna. So how is it that she has made up her mind? She has never met Krishna. How is it that she has made up her mind that she wants Krishna as her husband? Having heard of his qualities. And what is the greatness of those qualities or the act of hearing? That when you hear the qualities of the Lord, that enters into the ears of the person who is hearing, and it removes their bodily distress. Although here she is saying bodily distress, also we must understand it as distress of any kinds. So by listening to the glories of the Lord and his qualities, whatever distressful things are there in our life, they will get removed. Just as Rukmini said this, it is equally applicable to all of us also. We also know about Prahlada, how when he was in the womb of his mother, he heard all the stories which Narada Muni was telling. The mother would fall asleep. Prahlada's mother's name was Kayadu. She would fall asleep sometimes while Narada she was telling. But Prahlada in the womb heard all that. And that is what made him, become that kind of a bhakta. From the time, even before he made his entry into the world, he heard the qualities of the Lord, and that inculcated that great desire in him. So that is another example that how and why we must practice Shravanam. The more we hear about the Lord, the greater is the desire to learn more. And if we start by hearing little by little, we will gradually come to the stage where we will be able to develop that desire to learn more and more. Hearing the Lord's gunas, hearing the Lord's leelas, all that removes the Rajotama guna which is predominant in us, and it increases the Sattvikata within us. So what happens is that normally we have these three gunas, Sattvik guna, Rajasic guna and Tamasic guna. So what happens is when the Sattvic quality is less and the Rajasic Tamasic qualities in us are higher, then we suffer more distress. But if we listen more and more to the glories of the Lord, as we hear, we keep thinking about the Lord. So when we think about God, then the memory of the Lord and his qualities will increase our Sattvikata. And as our Sattvic quality keeps increasing, the Rajasic and Tamasic qualities start gradually reducing. So whatever good feelings we have, whatever good emotions we have, those are because of the sattvic qualities within us. And whatever negative emotions we have, whatever distresses us, whatever agitates us, whatever makes us feel unhappy, all that is because of the Rajotama gunas. So as we keep listening more and more, our sattvikata will increase. So we will be more calm and have peace of mind, and our negative emotions will start reducing. And perhaps most importantly, Shravanam helps to destroy the papa in our life. Whatever account we have of the bad deeds that we have done, and whatever now our actions are such that they will accrue, demerits or papa for us, that will be destroyed by the mere act of listening to the Lord's glories. So that these are the reasons why we must practice Shravanam. Now, how do we practice Shravanam? Here again, I have few examples of how we should be practicing Shravanam. So the first example is that of Kulasekara Azhwar. He was one of the Alvars who is one of Alvars are the Tamil saints who were very steeped in devotion to the Lord. So one of them was Kulasekara Azhwar. He is the only one of the Alvars who was in a royal position. He was a king. And yet, despite that kind of a lifestyle, we know that when somebody has a lot of power, when somebody is the king, they are more likely to be, having a big ego and to be full of that, sense of I, me, myself. And they will act with arrogance. But this Alvar was totally the opposite. Now, the example is given of how this Alvar would listen to Ramayana Katha. He was very fond of the Ramayana. And he had arranged that every time there should be somebody who will come and give a, pravachana about Ramayana. So at one point of time, when the Ramayana, when the person who was giving the Upanyasa, that person was speaking about the episode where all those thousands of Rakshasas come with Khara and Dushana, and Lord Rama single-handedly fights against them, right? He tells Lakshmana, you take care of Sita and you both be inside the ashram. I will manage these asuras. And single-handedly, he has started fighting. So when Kulasekara Azhwar heard this being described, he was so involved in that he immediately said, stop this pravachan now. Let us all go. We have to get my army together. All the commanders bring all our troops together. We have to go and help Rama. He is alone, poor thing, single-handedly fighting against those asuras. What will happen to Rama? He may get injured. Let us go to his help. And he made all the army gather, and he started marching out with them. Now, all the ministers and everybody, they didn't know what to do, how to convince him that that is all long ago. It has happened already. You are only listening to the narration of those events. He is not ready to listen. So what they did was they made a plan, and they sent one group of people who met this Kulasekara Azhwar and all his army from the opposite side. And they came there, and those people said, where are you going? So Kulasekara Azhwar said, we are all going to help Lord Rama to fight against the Asuras. So those people who came there, they said, oh, you're going, but there is no need. Already Rama has destroyed all the Asuras and he is perfectly safe. And as soon as he destroyed the Asuras, Sita Devi embraced him with love. And with that loving embrace of Devi, all whatever wounds he had got, they have all healed completely. So there is no need for you to go now to help Lord Rama. The war is already over, they said. Only after hearing this, Kulasekara Azhwar returned back to his kingdom. So that is the spirit of how we should practice Shravanam. We may not be able to go to the level of Kulasekara Azhwar. We are not such great devotees. We are very much living in our worldly life, isn't it? But the attitude should be that with that kind of involvement, I'm going to listen to the Lord's Katha. I'm not listening to the Lord's Katha as a pastime. I'm not doing it as a hobby. Some people go to the movie, I am going to pravachan. Some people listen to film music, I am listening to bhajan. That is not enough. Definitely, I'm better than those people because I'm doing something related to God. But further, I have to develop that kind of a bhava that this is for me, and that love for God, I should try and awaken. And with that level of involvement, I should try and hear whatever is being told. The second example we can follow is that of Hanuman. When Ramavatara was getting over, and Rama was to return to Vaikuntha. We know that Lord Rama took everybody, including the animals and everything in Ayodhya, to Vaikuntha with him. He called Hanuman also, but Hanuman said, "My Lord, please, I will not come with you to Vaikuntha." So Rama was surprised that why are you not going to come to Vaikuntha? So Hanuman says, "No, my Lord, I want to continue to be here on earth, and I want to continue to have the joy of hearing your katha." So we know that shloka, right? It says, "Yatra yatra Raghunatha Kirthanam, tatra tatra Kritamastakkanjalim, Bhashpavari Paripurna Lochanam, Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam." So wherever there is Rama Katha going on, Raghunatha Kirtanam, wherever there is glory of Rama being sung, then at that time, in that place, definitely Hanuman will be present, sitting there, shedding tears of joy and enjoying the story of Lord Rama. In fact, that is the reason why it is a practice that whenever they arrange Ramayana Katha or some, Saptaha or something like that, or Sundarkand Patha, wherever such stories of Lord Rama is going on, of the Ramayana is going on, then at all those places, it is a practice to set up one seat separately, which will be kept because we know that Hanuman is going to be present there. So there is a special seat which is arranged for the seating of Hanuman at that place. So with that kind of bhava, how many times Hanuman must have heard Ram Katha like this, and yet he continues to hear, he continues to take joy. So also with that same level of wanting to hear, that yearning to hear, that desire to hear, we must be able to hear the Lord's kathas. So like Hanuman, we must hear. And the third example is that of the ghost called Dhundhukari, the spirit with which he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam being narrated. So there is not going to be enough time to go into the entire story. Maybe some other time, by God's grace, by Acharya's grace, we will get to the Srimad Bhagavatam eventually. But just to tell you that there was one person who had done lot of crimes, lot of papa he had accumulated. And he had a brother called Gokarna. And this Gokarna actually did a shraddha in Gaya for this brother, when this Dhundhukari, when he came to know that Dhundhukari has died. Okay. So Dhundhukari was a very evil person, accumulated lot of papas. Gokarna was the exact opposite. He was a saintly person. So when he heard that Dhundhukari has met his end, he went to Gaya and did a shraddha there for him. And yet one day when he was resting, there was some abnormal sound. And when he opened the door, there was this, ghost which had come there and told him that I am Dhundhukari. My Atma is not getting mukti. I'm stuck up here and I want to go out of this, ghost form. I want mukti from this. You please do something. So Gokarna says, I did Gaya Shraddha for you. He says, no, the amount of my papa is immense. And that is why I'm stuck in this ghost form. Even if you do, how many ever Gaya Shraddhas you do, it is never going to be enough for me. So then this Gokarna asks the Surya Dev that what is the solution for this? And that time the Surya Dev tells him that you should narrate and recite the Srimad Bhagavatam, and with that your brother's Atma will get mukti. So it is decided to have a Bhagavat session. Srimad Bhagavatam is going to be conducted, the reading of that. All the villagers come there, everybody sits there, and Gokarna sits there ready to narrate the Bhagavatam. And this ghost also needs a place to sit, isn't it? So he is asked, he says, I will take up residence in this, one big bamboo pole. And he says, in that bamboo pole, I will sit there. Now, every day as the stories were being told, this, at the end of each day's katha, there are knots in the bamboo pole. So every time that ghost moved up one level, that Dhundhukari moved up one level, because his sattvikata increased by listening to the katha, one knot of that bamboo would burst. So this happened consecutively, and after 7 days, because it's a saptaha that is held, Bhagavatam. So at the end of that saptaha, at the end of that 1 week, all the 7 knots of that bamboo pole were broken, and there was a celestial chariot that came, a Divya Ratha which came. The Vishnu Dutas were there, and they took this Dhundhukari with them and went off. So his Atma got mukti. So Gokarna was surprised. Suryadeva told him that by doing this, and in fact, it is told that whoever listens to Srimad Bhagavatam should get mukti. So Gokarna's question to those dutas was that, what is this? I narrated the katha. There are so many people who listen to the katha, and yet we all didn't get this treatment, but Dhundhukari was taken to moksha. So what is that? Why is it that that happened like that? Why the other people didn't get the same benefit? So then it is explained that the spirit with which, the intensity with which Dhundhukari heard that this is my only solution, this is my only way out. With that spirit, he heard, and that is why he got mukti. So from this also we get an idea of how we should practice Shravanam. So just to make it more clear, there are a few action points. Firstly, set a time to do Shravanam. Set aside a time of your day, even if it is just 10 minutes or 15 minutes in a day to start with. Set aside a time and say, in this time, I will listen to somebody singing bhajans, or I will listen to chanting, or I will listen to some lecture, I will listen to some upanyasa, I will listen to some pravachana, I will listen to Bhagavad Katha, whatever it may be. Now we have so much technology. You don't have to go physically to a place, right? Of course, going physically will be also better. But we have so much on YouTube. So pick something to listen to and go through it regularly. Every day at that same time which you have decided, set a time and do that Shravanam correctly. So listen to bhajans, we can listen to chanting, we can listen to stotras, pravachanas, upanyasams, lectures, whatever describes the Lord's leela. Because the Lord himself has told in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo vetti tatvataha, tyaktva deham punarjanma, naiti mameti sorjuna. So he tells Arjuna, oh Arjuna, those who understand the divine nature of my birth and activities, those who listen to that and understand that my birth and my activities are divine. So when they leave this body, they don't have to take birth and they will come to Vaikuntha, they will come to me only. So we must have this in our mind and keep listening to the glories of the Lord. Another thing many times we say is, we don't have time. I don't get time. Time we can never get. We must only make time for Shravanam. So getting time, let us not wait for that. It will never come. We have to carve out time from our schedule. Now, where is it that we are using all our time? We are doing so much idle gossip. We are doing so much scrolling through social media. We are doing so much sharing, forwarding on WhatsApp, whatever is not required. We are watching TV serials. We are watching movies. We have Netflix and other things. All that, if we can cut out some time, nobody's asking you to directly, immediately give up all that. But if I can cut down some of that and use it in Shravanam, because of technology, our lives have become easier. We don't have to spend so much time in cooking. We don't have to spend so much time in doing the household work. We don't have to spend so much time in going here and there to get things. Everything gets delivered to our house. So we have so much time that is actually saved. But what we are doing with all that time? We are using it. We are frittering it away in all frivolous, unwanted, unnecessary activities. So instead, let us take some time out of those activities, such activities, and put it into Shravanam. And then once we start, gradually, we have to also increase the amount of time that we are spending in Shravanam. The example is commonly given of the mirror, that if there is a mirror and you have cleaned it, okay, if you look at the mirror again after 2-3 days, you will find that again there is dust which has settled on it. So is it that just because you clean the mirror once, it's going to stay clean forever? No. So also our antakarana is getting polluted day in and day out because of all the stimuli that come to us. There are so many things that we involve in, things we see, things we hear, things we talk. So all that will keep, adding to our karma. It will keep adding. We will be doing so many wrong things. So just as we keep cleaning the mirror to remove the dust particles from it, similarly, we have to keep listening to the glories of the Lord. And that only will help to constantly cleanse our antakarana, to do shuddhikaran of our antakarana. So that is why we must gradually increase the time that we give for Shravanam. And then we must also make notes of what we listen to. Only listening is not enough. We need to listen, we need to write down, okay? And only then it will stay with us. Otherwise, simply listening is just like listening to anything else. So if we want it to have an impact with us, we need to write down the main points at least of what we listen. and then we must read them time and again. Whenever we have some free time, we must go back and read what we wrote down. And then if we may have some doubts, we must ask some qualified teacher to explain it to us. So when we follow this procedure, we will be making maximum benefit of all these sources of information which are available to us. So this is what we had to talk about Shravanam. So just to summarize, we started with the 9 forms of worship. We talked about all the 9 forms. We just mentioned their names. And today being the first day, we talked about Shravanam, which is hearing about the Lord's name. We saw from the story of Parikshit Maharaj, how we should hear, what was the importance of hearing. At the end of those 7 days of listening to the Bhagavatam, Parikshit got moksha, right? So he was able to depart with a peaceful mind. And that is what tells us the importance of Shravana. Then we know, like Rukmini, what she said, by hearing the qualities of Krishna, she developed love for him. So also by hearing constantly to the Lord's qualities and leelas, we will also develop love for the Lord. Prahlada was initiated into bhakti by hearing when he was in his mother's womb about the glories of the Lord. So as we listen more and more, our Rajotama gunas will decrease, our Sattvikta will increase, our Papa also gets destroyed. We saw the examples of Kulasekara Azhwar and how he heard Ramayana. He got so involved that he said, I am going to go and help Rama to fight against the Asuras. We also learned about the example of Hanuman, who is there even now at every Rama Katha that is narrated. And finally, we took the example of Dhundhukari, who heard the Srimad Bhagavatam with such intensity that he got moksha, but the other people could not get the same. Of course, later, knowing that they have to hear with intensity, Gokarna narrated again. And at that time, whoever heard, they all went to moksha. So this is how we must do Shravanam. And we saw a few practical tips. Set a time to do Shravanam. Listen to bhajans, chanting, pravachanas, all that. Because understanding the divine nature of the Lord is what will give us mukti from this circle of birth and death. We must not wait to get time. We must make time for Shravanam. We must pull time, what we are wasting here and there, and invest it into Shravanam. We must gradually increase the amount of time that we spend in Shravanam. We must make notes of what we listen to. We must read. We must ask if we have doubts. And we must go ahead in our sadhana. So after all this, it is time now to express gratitude. So let us offer Kritagnyata. Let us offer gratitude at the lotus feet of Mata Mahalakshmi, Sri Krishna and Guru, for inspiring us to start and join this satsang. And let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Namaskar. I'm really thankful to all of you for having joined the satsang today. Please continue to join every day in the same way. And let us see where this 9-day journey takes us ahead and how much we are able to learn and practice out of this. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Ansuyaji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ansuya.
Today I have
Thank you,
spoken.
Ansuya.
Yeah, thank you. Today I have spoken a little too much, so we don't have time for question answer. This meeting is going to end very soon. But from next time, we will take a few questions also. I will time it such that, I leave at least about 5 minutes for the question answer. Thank you so much. Namaste. We'll join tomorrow again at 8 o'clock, same way, through the same link. Namaste.